So I'm Wilkins. My first name is Daniel, but I don't go by Daniel. It's always Wilkins. I've been in the military for about 10 years. I'm an aircraft mechanic, United States Air Force. Back in 2022, January 2022 was when I was making a transition from churches. And, God had spoke to me, through a little old lady at Fort Sam. So I'd go to Fort Sam in the morning and, just to lift weights and work out and everything like that. I would always run into this little old lady and she would be like, "Hey, you look like a good kid." She goes, "Do you go to church?" I'm like, I'm looking for a church now. I kind of strayed away a little bit. And she's like, "Oh, well, do you have kids?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, have you heard of CBC?" I'm like, "No." And she goes, "Yeah, starts telling me about Pastor Ed and, basically what the church is about." And she said that they have, a playground, stuff like that for kids, and I can take my kids over there. And I was like, we'll check it out. But at that time, my wife, she was still serving, real strong at the church. And I kind of prayed, that God would, bring her with me and, because I didn't want conflict. But at that time, God did answer my prayers. And, she was like, "Okay, look, beginning of January 2022, I want to make a change. Where do you think we should go?" It reminded me when that little old lady told me, "Hey, everything about the church, everything about Pastor Ed," but it was in the north side. So at that time, I was like, man, I was kind of skeptic just because north side church, kind of bougie, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, look at me, I go to stores in the north side and, people walking by, they pull their purses in and stuff like that. I'm like, man, you don't even know. I felt pulled to try to, to go over there. And my wife looked it up online, and she showed me a preaching from Pastor Ed. And from there, I was like, let's go check it out. So we showed up, and man, I felt like nervous, but at the same time, multicultural, and I was like, man, this is me, people there like me. Pastor Ed gave the word so simple, easy, broke it down that I was able to apply it in my life. And I told me and my wife after that, we met and we're like, you know what, this is it. This is church. I was like, okay, how can I get plugged in? Because it's a mega church, it's huge. And, one thing that God told me was like, if you want to get involved, you have to put yourself out there. There's a guy in my unit, I didn't know he went to CBC, and he's like, "Hey, you go to CBC?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, hey, well, they're going to be doing this Sleep in Heavenly Peace, for the Love SA." So I was like, all right, go check it out, And the reason why I went was because we have drill, which we have to do our 1 week in a month in our unit. And that was a way to get me out of the drill. So I was like, hey, all right, let's go check it out, So I went and I met George, and he was just telling me his story, about how Sleep in Heavenly Peace helps foster children with beds. And, even through that whole experience, all the people that I met there, they were, just so welcoming, loving. And, I felt like I belonged, just like CBC. It was the same characteristics of love, family, camaraderie, all in one. After that, I was like, man, all right, where else can I help out? And even through the love, that CBC shared, even through the love that Pastor Ed shared with me, like, man, it was all sincere. And I needed that because there, I don't really have much family. I grew up off of 90 and 35, went to Burbank High School. Dad's a heroin addict. My mom, workaholic. She had to provide for her 4 kids. I have a brother that I never met. They took him when we were young. But, throughout all that, growing up in a broken home and everything, that I went through, I thank God that I went through that because it helped me appreciate and want to give back to people that are in my shoes. You know what I'm saying? That people grew up like me, to bring hope. Like I said, when I first came, I was kind of, skeptical about coming to or joining anybody. I have, the trust issue from my dad letting me down. And, ever since then, like, man, the doors have been opening. There was a meeting that they had for the Southside. My wife received the email and I wasn't even supposed to be there. My wife was like, "Hey, you want to come tag along?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go check it out." So we went, and Pastor Ed started, sharing everything. He was like, "Hey, we're going to open up a Southside campus. All of y'all basically here are our core leaders that are going to help build." And I'm like, I'm just studying and looking at Pastor Ed, right? And he's like, "Hey, it looks like you want to say something." First time I ever met him in person. I feel your heart and everything that you want to do for the Southside which I'm from the Southside, and your heart's there. You want to help out. I thank God for, leading me to Pastor Josh, becoming his armor bearer, and, just doing ministry and life with our lead team. And, I'm excited for everything that God has planned, for the community, for the Southside. Everything that God's done in my life right now, amazing. So I'm like, man, God, how can you top this? Everything that you have done now, what more can you do? If I could encourage anybody, I would say, man, just let go, let God, and just jump in, because the heart of CBC, the heart of Global, the heart of Southside, it's all for God and helping the community and bringing people closer to God and showing the freedom, the greatness that God has in for their life. But I would have never known unless I stepped in and just trusted God.